Hey guys, my name is Felicia. I'm a Nigerian YouTuber based in Lagos. If you're new here and you're clicking on my video for the very first time, yay! Thank you so much for clicking on that video. I appreciate that you stopped by to watch this video. Please do well to join the family by subscribing, like, share, comment, do all that good stuff, okay, before you leave. Thank you very much. And if you're a returning subscriber, thank you so much, my OGs, for always coming back to watch my video. I appreciate your support. Okay, so right now today I'm going to be showing you how to make a boo-boo. Simple as it is. Your girl had to just jazz it up with some bling and it looks so fab. Yeah, so I'm going to be showing you quickly in this video how to make a simple boo-boo. Let's get right into it. The things needed for this tutorial, I'll be listing them on the screen and I'll also leave them in the description box. Please do well to check that out. So get right into this tutorial. So the first thing to do is to consider the length of your dress. My client's full length of dress is 57 inches and I'm going to be adding 1 inch at the end for hemming allowance. So that 58 inches now, I'm going to be multiplying that by 2 and that will be 116 inches long. So your fabric should be the length of your dress times 2 plus 2 inches hemming allowance. So now the first thing to do is fold the fabric into 4. So I have folded this fabric already into 4, the longer side first, and I folded it in half, and that's what I have here. Now on the beginning of my folding, I'm going to start marking my length measurements. So now for this client, her shoulder to chest is 9 inches, but I'm marking 10 inches because I need to add extra ease of allowance. And then I'm marking her shoulder to waist, which is 16 inches. And the next thing to mark is from the waist point. Now I'm going to be marking her waist to hip, which is 10 inches long. So now once I've done marking those points, I'm going to now go ahead and confirm that my length is 58 inches. Notice that I've folded my fabric on the right side. Now on the first point I marked, which is the chest point, I'm going to be applying her bust measurement, and her bust is 32 inches and I've divided that by 2, which is 8, and I added 2 inches extra for allowance. Now on the waist point I earlier marked, I'm going to be applying her waist measurement. Her waist measurement is 28 inches and I divided by 4, which is 7, and I added 2 inches extra for allowance. And on the hip I'm marking 12 inches because her hip measurement is 40 and I've divided 40 by 4 and I have 10 inches and I've added 2 inches again for allowance. Right now I'm now connecting those points that I have placed and making sure that I can have a visible line that I'm going to be sewing on much later. So now going towards the end of the dress, I'm not going to be marking 12 inches all the way down because I need to give some room for walking. So I'm just doing a slight flare from the hip point. So I just flared it out a little bit on the side so that once she's walking on this, she'll be free to walk. The next thing to do now is to transfer this same line on the front parts at the lower part of this dress. So I've marked the beginning point as well at on the other side of the fabric, and I'm now marking the body lines all the way down because that is the sewing line I'm going to be working on. Please note that I added 2 inches extra on all the circumference measurements because it's a boo-boo and it's meant to be free. Now the next thing I'm going ahead to do now is to mark my neckline. I'm just making a really high round neck, but I'm making it wide enough to allow the hair to pass. So I've marked 4 inches on the breadth side and 4.5 inches on the length side, and I'm just going to go ahead now and cut away from that line, ½ inch away from that line. For your own boo-boo, you can decide to play around with the neckline. There are so many necklines to work with. If you want to know how to do that, just let me know in the comment section and I can answer you there. Okay, so here is the line more visible. So this is where I'm going to be sewing my facing on, and then this is the marking I just made on the body where I'm going to be eventually stop stitching on. So this for the boo-boo, I'm just sewing on the front part of the dress. Now I'm going ahead to make the facing. You could use a bias to turn the neck, but I really like my work to be really neat, so I'm going to be using a facing. Now the first thing to do is to just fold my fabric into 4. Now this folding I'm making, I just want it to be big enough to just be able to cut out a facing. So if you're recreating exactly my own neckline, so you just need a box of fabric that is 14 inches all around. Once you folded it, it will end up becoming a 7-inch box. So that's what I'm just going to use to cut out using this exact measurement I'm using. Okay, so now the first thing I'm going to do is to cut off the semicircle, I don't know what I'll call it, but cut off that bit right there, and then I'm going to use my tape to mark 2 inches all around that line. So once I'm done marking the 2 inches, I'm just going to cut it out. Once I've cut my facing out, I'm just placing it to show you guys what it's going to be looking like. And here is my hemming gum. I'm going to be using it to sew the facing around. Why I always use a hemming gum is so that my facing remains inside of the dress when the person is wearing it. Okay, so I'm just going to place my hemming gum around as I sew on 1/2 inch around this circle. So first thing I'll do here now is to just pin it before going to my machine, because I don't want it to be moving around. So I just pin it all around the circle. On my machine now, here is my hemming gum, which I already folded into 2 because I want it to be thick enough. So as I'm sewing around on that 1/2 inch now, I'm placing my hemming gum and sewing round. Please remember to like my video if you haven't liked it at this point. Please subscribe if you haven't also, and leave me comments. Okay, I'd love to hear from you. Once I'm done with my facing, I'm just going to go ahead now and notch that circle. So I'm going to be notching it as close as possible. Please remember to remove your pin so that you don't have anything piercing your piercing your neck. Yeah, so I'm just going to use my scissors now and notch my circle so that it's easier for me to top stitch. So I'm just notching it as close as possible to the sewing line, but careful enough not to cut into my lines. Okay, so I'm just snipping and snipping and snipping. Now the facing right there, I'm going to be taking over the seam allowance on the facing side, and I'm going to be running a stitch as close as possible to the initial stitch I have there and take that around. So why I'm doing this is so that the facing remains well hidden inside the dress. If you don't do this, your facing might end up coming out at every slight move, so you have to top stitch the seam on the facing. So the seam of the dress and the facing, you're just going to flip it over on the facing side and top stitch all around. So once I'm done, here we have it. You can see how clean the neckline is. There is no sewing line showing on the outside, so it looks really professional and very neat, which is what I like, and I always go for neatness. Can you see that? No lines whatsoever, but it is nicely finished. So I'm going to just go over to my iron and iron it. For the rough edge of the facing, you're just going to have to weave that end. So the next thing for me to do now is to hem the edges of the full length of this bubu. So I'm just going to fold in 1/2 inch twice all around the whole length. Okay, so this point, right, what I'm doing right now isn't totally necessary if you have a weaving machine, but as you already know, I don't have a weaving machine yet. Very soon I'll have one, but I'm just going to be using a bias on the edges of my facing because I do not want to start going out to weave this. Okay, so I just use the bias and run around the front side of the fabric first using the bias. The bias already has lines, so it's easier to follow. So the first line on the bias, when you open it up, I'm going to just be placing that at the edge of my facing and sew around it using that line on the bias. Once I'm done with the front side, I'm just now flipping in the bias and I'm sewing again all around to just tuck that rough edge in neatly. Now this part also isn't necessary if you don't want to go through the stress of bedazzling your boo-boo, but yeah, I just use my picker and my stones with my steam presser, and I'm going to now start the hard work of placing these stones one after the other and bedazzling this boo-boo. I'm not going to show you guys a lot because yeah, it's not really necessary if you don't want to go through the stress. But if you like me to show you how to use a steam presser to stone your dress or using a fabric glue, just let me know in the comment section and I'll do a separate video for stoning. Okay, so I am just placing my stones and I'm about to press this. Now I'm back to my machine and I'm going to now sew on that line I marked on the body of my boo-boo. So remember to mark your starting point so that you know where exactly you're starting from. And I'm just following the line right now and sewing all the way down to the length of the dress. Once I'm done with this side, I'll just do the other side off camera. Yeah, I forgot to mention that you have to pin down your fabric before sewing on this line so that it doesn't move about. So this is our boo-boo all nicely bedazzled, stoned and ready to go. It's Salah in a few days and my client is going to be rocking this. I couldn't wear this because it's a policy for me not to wear my client's dress, so I'm just using my beautiful mannequin here, my faithful and loyal servant, to put on this dress for me. She wears almost all, in fact she wears all the dresses except it's not her size. Yeah, so this boo-boo looks gorgeous. The print is fabulous. The video or the lighting isn't even doing justice to the bling on this boo-boo, but I'm going to show you guys in a darker lighting. Blings, bling, bling, bling. It's shiny. Anyway, that brings us to the end of this video. Before I start rambling, please don't forget to subscribe. If you haven't liked, please do well to give me a thumbs up. Share this video if you have friends who are sewing enthusiasts. And yeah, I'll see you in my next video. In the meantime, stay fabulous, and till next time, I'm Felicia and we'll see you again. Bye.